So if you find this sleep story helpful or interesting, then give it a thumbs up, leave any comments that you've got below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you can receive notifications of when future sleep stories go live. I have dozens and dozens of stories already on my channel that you can go and search. I also release new stories every single week, so I hope you enjoy this story. So take a moment to close your eyes as you listen to this adult bedtime story. And as you listen to this adult bedtime story, you can begin to have a sense of just drifting comfortably inside and relax a little. And while you drift and begin to dream, so I'll talk to you in the background. Talk to you about a discovery of a lost pyramid. And you can have a sense of being in Egypt and gently rowing down the Nile, and the sound of the oar as you push the water back on one side of your boat, lift the oar over the boat and push the water back on the other side of your boat. The sound of the water sloshing and being pushed back. The sound of water dripping back into the water as the oar gets lifted out from one side and lowered into the other side. And that pressure and that feeling of the oar as it passes through the water and propels you comfortably further along the river. And as you continue to row along the river, so you can feel the warmth of the sun on your face, and perhaps you've got a hat on, just to shield you a little from some of that sun. As you continue to row along the river, and you can hear sounds around you, sounds of people on the shore, sounds of music, sounds of hustle and bustle, sounds of birds in the sky, some darting around, some just hovering there, occasionally casting shadows on the ground and on the water. And you can be aware of the different colours and shades that you can see, the different textures, as you continue rowing down the river. And occasionally you can notice how the river just gets slightly choppier, and the boat just bobs on that choppy water before straightening and continuing smoothly along the river. And you're looking for something that stands out. You've heard rumours that somewhere along the river used to be a pyramid, a long-lost pyramid. And you don't know really what you're looking for, just something that stands out, something slightly unusual, something that doesn't seem natural. And as you continue along the river, so you begin to move further away from the built-up areas around the riverbank. And the sounds around you begin to quieten down, begin to relax. And everything begins to feel more peaceful, calmer, as you continue. And then some way down the river, you pull over to the shore. You row the boat just gently slightly up onto the shore, climb out the front of the boat, And have that sense of pulling the boat up the shore slightly, out the water. Noticing how as you pull it out of the water, your feet give in the soil. And that gravelly sound of pulling the boat up onto the shore. And you can feel a slight breeze from time to time on your face. And perhaps your face starts to get warm. Perhaps your cheeks start to feel warm as you relax. And you take a moment to be observant, to very slowly look around you, very slowly move your head around, taking in what you can see, calmly looking around, just looking for something that stands out, something out of the ordinary. And you decide to do something you've never tried before, and you don't think anyone else has either. And you get your camera out. You set your camera so that it's got high contrast. And you look through your camera. And you look for areas that seem to stand out against the background. And you notice that there's some vegetation that just seems slightly different to the rest. Seems a little peculiar. It seems to be formed in a slightly more straight line than you'd expect by chance or expect naturally in this area. And you can take a moment to walk over to that area. And as you do, you notice rough, long grass that's standing slightly taller in two straight lines. And the lines are just over a body's width apart, about 1.5 feet apart, perhaps 2 feet. And you walk between the lines, and as you walk between the lines of grass there, you notice how the soil feels different. It seems to be springier, seems to be a bit more give. Not quite as firm as the soil just outside of those two lines. And so you get a shovel from your bag on your back. And you start digging. And after digging for a little while, you notice that there seems to be a staircase going under the ground. So you dig, and you notice the staircase, and you hit a step and have that clunk of hitting the step, and so you scrape that step clean, and then you dig, and then you hit another step, and so you scrape that step clean, and you move forward a bit, and you dig, and you hit another step, and so you scrape that step clean, and then you move forward a bit further, and you dig, and you keep repeating this, going deeper and deeper. And you notice as you go deeper that the sun can't quite reach you, so you suddenly feel cooler even though you're digging. And so you keep digging until you reach a point where there seems to be a floor at the bottom of this staircase. And so you dig forward along the floor and you dig up and you start digging under the ground. And you discover that you're in a slight tunnel. And as you dig into this tunnel, so you start feeling a little excitement, wondering what it is you've discovered and where you are. And you reach a door, a stone slab. So you scrape the stone slab clean, clear all the mud from the stone slab. And you notice that this stone slab has been placed here in a very specific way. There are two bits of wood in the bottom corners of the stone slab. And you pull on those bits of wood, and suddenly the stone slab rolls back towards you. And you jump back out the way, jumping back onto the steps, and the slab hits the steps and stops with a thud. And you climb up over that slab, go back to the door, and there's a certain bizarre smell, like the air hasn't been breathed for years. And you wonder if this is the lost tomb you're looking for. You know it's definitely a tomb that's been lost. And so you get your torch out, flick your torch on, and begin to walk into the corridor that suddenly opens up before you. And it's pitch black apart from what your torch is lighting. And you notice hieroglyphs around the walls. And you take a few photos of some of those hieroglyphs. And you hear the echoey footsteps that you take. And from the sound of the footsteps and the echo you can hear, you can deduce that this is a very long tunnel. And the air is very still. And after perhaps 5 or 10 minutes of walking, the tunnel begins to veer upwards, and so you follow the tunnel upwards. And then it veers around to the right, so you follow it round to the right. And then there's a vertical shaft. And so although it's quite a struggle, you climb up that vertical shaft, putting your back against one wall, flicking your feet up onto the other wall, and walking up the vertical shaft. And your muscles can strain and take your weight, and it can be a huge struggle to get up that vertical shaft. And when you reach the top, you scramble up onto the surface, and you roll onto your back and relax. And just do some deep breaths to let that tension go, to let your muscles relax. And then after your muscles relax, and you feel ready to carry on your journey, you pick your torch up, you shine it around, and you notice this is a vast chamber. And in the distance, as you waved your torch around, something glistened. So you decide to head towards whatever it was that glistened. And now the echoes sound like you're in a cathedral or a church. Each footstep that you take echoes like you're in some kind of a vast area. You shine your torch up, and yet the light just gets lost in the darkness. And when you arrive at that thing that reflected and glistened, you discover it's a hieroglyphic symbol that's been printed in gold. Like someone had poured gold onto the wall, and while it was drying, stamped in that gold with a hieroglyph for a pharaoh. And you discover that this is the place you were looking for, because that symbol is for a pharaoh from an age before pharaohs, from a lost ancient civilization that gave rise to the known pharaohs. And you can notice your heart speeding up a little at the excitement of what you've discovered as you focus on this and wonder with curiosity what's behind that door. And you know you should really wait and go and get a team to do a proper investigation. But you can't wait. This was a lifelong obsession, discovering this tomb. And now you're here. And it looks like no one has ever been in here since it was sealed. Your assumption at this point is that it can't have been looted, because or else that gold seal would have been looted. And so you use your shovel to prise the door open. And some of the air from inside the chamber you're in gets sucked into the room you've just exposed. Almost like you've just opened an airlock. And you think about how you're breathing air that's been in this tomb since it was sealed thousands and thousands of years ago. And you notice the other side of the door are some unlit torches. So you get your lighter out and you light the torches, and as soon as you light the torches, so the entire room lights up and reflects, and you notice it's a chamber made of gold. The floor, the ceiling, the walls are all gold, bright and glistening, with wooden and golden artifacts, golden sarcophagus, and much of this you notice is unmovable. It's so solid and so heavy, and yet so exciting. You're the first to see this in thousands of years. And at the back of the tomb is a painting. And it doesn't look like the Egyptian art on the walls that people are familiar with. It looks like a painting that could have been done during the Renaissance. Almost like a lifelike depiction. And you can notice in that depiction, in that huge painting, the individual who the portrait is of, who's most likely the person in the sarcophagus. And you can notice in the background a painting of what the place looked like back then, noticing what people were doing, painting of people milling around, painting of people going to markets, painting of people just going about their daily lives. And you can notice that. Be fascinated that just that one picture gives a snapshot of what everything looked like back then. Almost as if when this was drawn, that pharaoh had to sit incredibly still on a veranda in an elevated location, while the artist drew and painted. Them sat there, and the scene in the background of the ancient lost city, of people going about their daily business, of everyday normal life, the kind of thing that's so easy to get lost with history. And as you walk around the painting and you look closely at the different aspects in that painting, so you notice a slight breeze coming from behind the painting. And so you take a moment to shift that painting and just slide that painting over a little, and you realise there's a tunnel behind the painting. You follow that tunnel. And you find more torches to light, and you light those torches. And as you go around lighting all the torches, so you find that you've just discovered a vast chamber containing an entire army of chariots, soldiers in army uniform, horses, all perfectly in rows. And in the middle of this chamber you discover a giant golden pool that's full of mercury. And then the light glistens and sparkles and bounces off of precious stones and gems throughout this chamber. And up on one of the walls you notice a giant golden disc being lit up by the light. And partially obscuring it you notice a perfectly polished giant black disc. And coming off the black disc you notice what looks like the head of a snake, tailing off as you follow it into a body of a snake. And you realise that this is a special place and special symbology of the worship of the sun, of the way every night darkness swallowed the sun, and every morning the sun won the battle and rose again, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And you take some time just taking photos of different things in here, just sitting quietly, just enjoying peace, enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying knowing that you're the first person in perhaps 10,000 or more years to have discovered this place, to have found the tomb of this long-lost pharaoh that goes way back to an ancient civilization before the familiar Egyptian civilizations. You take some time to try and work out your bearings. You're aware this is a huge location, and you realize, based on how far you've dug, how far you walked down the tunnel, that this must be inside the nearby mountain that perhaps now, as you think about it, isn't really a mountain. It's an ancient pyramid that's been covered over, perhaps intentionally, to hide it, and that's been lost through history. Because you're aware from the outside, that mountain, that huge hill, just looks like a weathered hill. And so you can take some time of peace and quiet here, taking all the time to explore, to discover more. And while you do, you notice something seeming to throb with light, and you go over to it, and you rest the palm of your hand on it. And as you rest the palm of your hand on it, so you suddenly seem to zap you into the past, into some kind of vision of the past. Like a virtual reality machine that seems to zap you back into the past. Almost like a historical virtual reality machine to teach future generations about the past and about the technology they had. It zaps you into the past, and as you fall asleep now, so you can dream that past, finding yourself looking through your eyes, hearing through your ears, feeling what you feel in the past, as if you're in the background of that old painting, in a busy marketplace in ancient Egypt, thousands and thousands of years ago, as you drift comfortably asleep.